So, speaking of worst, we move on now to what is widely regarded to be the worst game in the Virtual Boy library. This is the one that when people ask, did the Virtual Boy have any bad games? Foolishly they ask, not realizing they're all bad. The one that always comes up routinely is Virtual Lab, a 1995 December 8th release by way of developer Nakoti and published by J-Wing. We are a biased source for this game because once upon a time, we wrote an article on the subject of this game, badgamehalloffame.com/virtuallab, where we gave it a fair shot, translated the manual, got into some of the history of the publisher and developer behind it, did as exhaustive a job as anyone had done previously covering the history of Virtual Lab. And then we got reached out to by the game's developer, a single-person team, this Nakoti, one Megumi-Tan, who was kind enough to provide an interview with us, where they filled in some of the gaps, gave us some more of the backstory behind it. I somehow posted the same link twice because my copy-paste didn't work there. But basically just told us, answered every burning question, revealed to us, and consequently the world, that the character in the game that you will see in the game bouncing boobily on the right-hand side was her own self-insert, that Megu-tan is a trans woman who aspired to have a huge rack. These are mostly her words, paraphrased slightly, and so did put herself insert into the game, making this an early aspirational trans video game, trans representation in a video game. Just had such a productive conversation with them that we've been friends ever since. I will say that I wrote the original game, the original article, the one that was just like the review and history of it, before I had talked to Megu-tan. And, I already came away from it being like, this is not the worst Virtual Boy game, not by a country mile. And so I stand by that. But all that being said, yes, we are going to be biased going into this. So let that bias be known up front. And I will proceed to play in and explain in it as best I can. I could go into the whole history. I could relitigate what's in those articles. I guess I will partially if you choose to play this for a bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll play this for a bit.
So basically, Nakoti, which was basically like a 2-3 person team that were hiring themselves out as like contractors, mostly to Hacker International, who are like prodigious eroge game distributors back in the day. So most of Megu-tan's games prior to this were of the porno variety. GameSpeed out here, the setting for GameSpeed is broken to where high is actually slower and low is actually higher because of a code error, which is just amusing. So before, one of their non-porno games that Megu-tan had made was a game by the name of Chiki Chiki Labo, or was it Chiki Chiki Dengoku? It was Chiki Chiki something on the Game Boy, which is this style of game. It's this style of puzzle game. In fact, there's a cameo from the protagonist, the angel characters from Chiki Chiki, whatever on the Game Boy, appear in this if you get a multi-line clear. So the way I'm going to understand it is that they were developing their games, relying on contracts from Hacker International. Virtual Boy comes out. Nakoti orders a handful of Virtual Boy development kits, wanting to cash in to carve out a niche for themselves on the Virtual Boy. And shortly after receiving these units, Nintendo makes the decision, actually, fuck this Virtual Boy thing. And so the rush is suddenly on Megu-tan, who is the sole programmer and artist behind this game, ultimately at this point, who learned the programming language and the know-how of how to develop a game for the Virtual Boy in like about the span of like a week, maybe a few days, and then had to develop this game in a week. And so the way that they did that efficiently was by carrying over some of the game logic from that Chiki Chiki game on the Game Boy and bringing it over to this as best they could in that incredibly short time frame. So that will explain the rushed nature of this, the threadbare nature of it, and we'll get to explain the mechanics in just a minute. I'll try to get this done as expediently as possible. So they managed to get it out before the deadline. They managed to get it out before Nintendo says no more releases. We're not manufacturing another goddamn cartridge for this piece of shit system that's already failed us. But they get it in under the finish line. J-Wing, for their part, the publisher at hand, who had games prior to and after this, they do a JRPG for the SNES that is like a high school JRPG, like almost like a sort of like Earthbound-esque JRPG that I'm very curious about. But that's a whole other story. They had slated like 5 games they wanted to develop for the Virtual Boy. There was a Space World event where they had like 5 games they announced simultaneously at the same time as one another. And this is the only one of those that materializes. And that is probably for the best, because the world did not need more Virtual Boy games, if we're being truthful here. But this one, yeah, goes on because of its rush nature. There are issues with the inputs here.
Yes.
As I'm sure Charky will attest to, that there is like sliding and bad momentum and friction here that overcomplicates what is otherwise fundamentally like a very basic puzzle game, a very basic like Pipe Dreams-esque, you know, fully like resolve these tubes here. There's a plot in the manual about there's a scientist who is doing experiments in the future city, and they find this species called the Mew, M-Y-U-U, who rapidly multiply, and the only way to get rid of them is to connect them to one another, is to connect all their orifices to create a closed loop, and that will pop them out of existence or send them back to their home planet or whatever the deal is. And so the protagonist of the game, all this plot is unbeknownst to Megumi, who just makes the game. Here's her self-insert. This is Megumi as she sees herself on the right-hand side. Again, mentioned she wanted huge boobs. So she gave herself in the game huge boobs. There's one problem. The people writing the manual are not on the same page as Megumi. And so they write this character, this protagonist named Risa. You know, Lisa, but, you know, they write it, like, with an R because of the alphabet. You don't need to explain that. And in the manual, they write her as being, like, 12 years old. And so Megumi said that when she discovered that they were trying to apply that character to the character that Megumi had made for herself in-game, she was horrified. So just let it be known that, you know, the fact that this character on the right-hand side of the screen is, you know, canonically meant to be a 12-year-old girl or whatever the fuck, Megumi had no part of. That was not by her design. It was an unfortunate sort of happenstance that it happened that way. But nonetheless, it's the reality we must now live with. And yeah, so this is an endless puzzler. Charky's more or less got the hang of it here.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to grasp, and I like this concept. I like how it's not so strict that you have to make a perfect thing. Like, if you can get a something to line up against the edge of the screen, that counts as a stopper piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I gotta be honest, if there is a complaint with this game, it is the controls. Like, you'll see right now, I'm trying to do single taps. Not moving, sometimes move, sometimes it'll double move. That is, like, the issue of this game. But it is still playable, and I still think the core mechanic is fun.
Yes. I'm struck by this being a totally fine concept for a puzzle game that is hampered by bad input because of the rush nature of its implementation. Johnny asked, did the manual writers not actually see the game and characters? I know. Yeah, they were just completely independent. This is very common for manual writers of the era. People always point to, like, North American localized manuals for games that are Japanese in origin, you know, likes of your Metal Gear or what have you, where they're writing completely different plots. But, like, that also happened in Japan. That also happened, like, natively, where the story teams writing, like, you know, just trying to fill a manual out with, like, some sort of synopsis or plot would be doing so completely independently of the people making the games. You should have an angel here who comes through, removes the bottommost row, because you got more than 10 objects cleared in a single clear here. And if you put that capper on, you'll move on to the next stage.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is a fun puzzle game. You know, in reality, it is hampered by the some of the input issues, but wow, so not even close to the worst on the Virtual Boy. This is fine. This is another case, though. Like, to be fair,
I want to do a stage, by the way.
Yeah, go for it. As we have said for other games, did not need to be on the Virtual Boy.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
In no universe does this need to be a Virtual Boy game.
And honestly, we might put the 3D on just for completionist sake.
Yes, I fully intend to do that. But I also want to set up a monster combo.
But adds nothing, you know.
Let me just get rid of... You know what? Let's do this.
But I think the main thing I want to get across... Also... Oh, okay. I was wondering if you could do that. I was wondering if you could continue to rotate pieces after the first one hit on one of those...
Yes, you can. In fact, it is optimal.
Things.
Also, you can shuffle the positions of these pieces.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
So there is more nuance to it, then.
All right. Yeah, the main thing I want to get across, which I think is something that Cass really wanted to get across as well, and has said so, is like, yeah, this is like not at all the worst game on the Virtual Boy, like not one bit.
There's so much worse. In fact, there's a worse puzzle game. It's called 3D Tetris, which is an abomination, which is one of the worst things human hands have ever developed, in my opinion. That 3D Tetris, which we will get to next episode. I'm going to go with like a safe combo. I'm going to go with a safety combo here. And not do like the most maximum scoring thing in the universe. I'll leave that open.
I Am Headful says, I now wonder, where did the idea of this being the worst Virtual Boy originate in Western circles?
There was a Virtual Boy review magazine that came out posthumously of the Virtual Boy's lifespan. It's mentioned in the Virtual Lab article we wrote that was like a Virtual Boy retrospective. It was written very snarkily.
Oh, you could have gotten one more piece in there too.
Nah, it's fine, because I'm going to get this completion on the right-hand side there, and then it'll clear the bottom row, and then it'll auto-solve when that top piece. But yeah, so I don't remember the name of the magazine specifically, but it is mentioned in the Virtual Lab article original, and they took like great lengths to make fun of Virtual Lab in the course of like their review of it and reviewing every Virtual Boy game that had come out. That is precisely where it started. That is precisely the nexus point for it, because most magazines missed this game coming out completely. Most magazines did not even review this game because they had just given up reviewing Virtual Boy games at this point. So it was entirely revisionism. It was entirely post-Virtual Lab lifespan, or Virtual Boy lifespan, that the reputation for it started. This is also the rarest cartridge you will find for the Virtual Boy, because the production run was so limited, because J-Wing was kind of a boutique publisher in the best of days. I'm going to switch it to 3D, then I'll do another solve here. So yeah, this is a case of a bad game where you can precisely track the origin of that, which is a interesting facet of it in itself. And yeah, people will also, complain about this game for the fact that it is so rare. You will get collector market assholes who will just be like, this game sucks because I can't find it, because it's the one thing keeping me from completing my Virtual Boy collection. So there's like a sort of like spite factor that comes with that. Entirely unfairly, I would dare to venture to say.
Why do I even have my 3D glasses on? I know how this game looks in 3D.
Yeah, the entire game takes place in the foreground. So, you know what? Let's do it like this, because I don't actually...
This is also, just in general, I would say, the Virtual Boy game that I've played the most.
Yeah,
period.
Funny how that works out, huh? You know what? Let's do it like this.
And then flip it. You know what I would love to see, honestly, is just a modern remake of this. You don't have to add too many bells and whistles. Just something that's not the Virtual Boy, and something that controls it a little better. There
have been attempts. There's like a Mega Drive homebrew version of this that is being worked on. We played that on a Casual Monday as well. It's not great. It's missing a lot of... It's broken. It adds a multiplayer mode, which is kind of neat. But it's also, like, unsolvable. Like, it doesn't recognize some combos. It has a ways to go, let's just say.
I think my dream version of this, my dream re-release version of this, would just be done, like, in Unity or Godot or something.
Could very easily be
as
done.
Easily accessible as possible.
So, I'm just, like, junking a lot of pieces here. I don't necessarily care. because
I know what piece you're hunting for.
There's an unsolvable like knot. You'll get a lot of this in this game where you'll find things that you can't resolve due to circumstance, due to just like poor planning or making a mistake. And so the only way to get rid of those is to get the angel to come out, which we will do here, and that will clean up the mess of the like open ends resolving into closed ends that would otherwise be impossible to deal with. But this should get rid of that bottom row. It should resolve that knot because it'll be facing downwards.
Now,
and then I can
Is this that guest character you were talking about?
Yes,
the angel?
The angel there is from Chiki Chiki. Tengoku is someone mentioned in chat. The correct name of
Also,
that Game Boy game.
Every time you say the name of that game, Chiki Chiki, I think of that like meme song with the cat. You remember? Like,
no.
Chiki Chiki Tava Tava. Looby Looby Laba Laba.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. Okay, I had a bad input there. I had a fucked input there where it did a additional input that I did not want it to do because of the way this game erroneously hallucinates some inputs. Johnny says, okay, I wasn't sure, but I am happy to report some 3D is in fact applied to the tits. Yes, I can notice that.
Yes.
I believe I noted that in the article as well. But yeah, 3D, completely unnecessary for this game. Megumi was more just concerned with getting the game done rather than implementing any 3D implementation into it, anything that would really, like, fully leverage the 3D, any foreground, background element stuff beyond just having the scrolling star field. She wanted to implement the multiplayer. She had the intention to have, like, link cable, the Virtual Boy head-to-head cable, but the fact that it never came out and that she was so limited on time, she couldn't even, like, sneak it in because there's just not the time or budget to do so. Which is unfortunate because I think there is, like, a multiplayer potential to this game. Limited though it may be, there is a potential.
Like, I'll be honest, like, not immediately after the show, but in the future, I will pop this game in on occasion. I will continue to play this.
You know what,
because I am a puzzle game fan, and this is a fine one. Like, again, I don't need to keep saying it, but there's a grin and bear itness to the controls.
Yeah, like the fact that I was trying to just do one move there, and you saw me overshoot it, like, 3 times over. Like, I'm not saying this game is perfect. In fact, I just noticed a huge error I just made personally because of, the way the graphics gyrate and, like, wriggle, is I didn't realize that this whole thing I'm doing here is unresolvable.
Yeah.
That I've been wasting my time on this. That's just I would need to do... Well, luckily, there's a very clear solution. I know exactly what I need to do to deal with the issue I've created for myself.
I think that's... In general, that's fine for a puzzle game, for you to be able to put yourself in a situation you're like, whoops, I fucked it.
Yeah, what's important is the ability to unfuck it. What's important is that a puzzle game give you the option, the ability to get yourself out of a sticky situation up until a certain point.
Yeah, up until a certain point is key.
This should be a tenor if I get this piece all the way to the right.
2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's 10. That's exactly 10.
Oh, God. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Bad inputs. If they fix the inputs, that would be such a solve for this game.
Again, that's why I would love there to be like a modern version of this. I'm not gonna bug Megumi-Tan for this or anything.
Nah, she got out of game development. She is not gonna develop any more games. She does stuff in VR chat, and she's been getting back into modeling, 3D modeling, to fully realize her vision of herself, and I love that for her. I love her. She's great. She's a goddamn angel. She's one of my favorite people, Megu-Tan. Yeah, something, we get into it in the interview article, but something really fucking bad happened to her. A really bad experience that traumatized her for years and made her want to quit the games industry as well, just to take a break from the real world, let's say. And so I won't get into that here, but read the articles. They that pair of articles is probably some of my proudest writing. Probably the best thing I ever did in the history of the Bad Game Hall of Fame as like a writing project. I am immensely proud of the work I did helping bring Megumi into the spotlight. She's found her people at this point. She's found a community. She has the respect of people. She hosts workout classes in VR chat. If you are up early enough for like the Japanese morning, and you want someone to work out with, Megu-tan seems like the perfect partner for it. And you know, this game gets a bad rap. I mean, it gets a. These inputs are killer.
Okay, if you want to thread the needle, this game gets a disproportionately bad rap.
Yeah, that would be a better way to put it. It's definitely... It is poor in its implementation of a basic idea, but understanding the circumstances that led to that, understanding the time crunch, understanding this is a one-woman project. No, well, I didn't even expect to get the 10 there, but... And we'll call it here. We'll call this game for now, for here.
Might want to turn off the 3D for the next one.
Thank you, Megu-tan. Thank you for inventing video games. Also, I just realized how low in the mix I had left this game because of the previous games we had played that were super loud. So folk were barely getting the music. Nice. Megu-tan wrote this music.
Also, I did missay her name earlier, Megu-tan. So.
Megumi-tan. Megu-tan. I don't know the nuances.
I used the wrong honorific. I think I used Chan instead of Tan.
Yeah, she prefers Tan, as I'm to understand it. But yeah, that's Virtual Lab. Not the worst. Doesn't need to be on Virtual Boy. Does not need to be on Virtual Boy. Would have been better served on any other platform other than the Virtual Boy. Like, let's not get too biased here. It sucks that the implementation is bad. It sucks that the manual is written to make the sex object of the game, as it were, the eye candy of it, as it were, a 12-year-old girl, is bad, even though that was not the authorial intention of Megumi. And ultimately, yeah, does not need to be on the Virtual Boy. But again, far from the worst thing in this system library, and the whiff of a good idea for a puzzle game in there. So that's our measured take on it. That's our fair and balanced take on Virtual Lab. And again, fuck 3D Tetris. The worst piece of dog shit we'll ever play in the course of this segment.